Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio. Sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Morgan Anderson. Happy Friday. It's 51 degrees outside with some windy conditions. The wind's certainly making it feel a bit colder at about 35 degrees. This will be our warmest day, though, for the next week. Our low for tonight is 30 degrees. Taking a look at your agricultural headlines, the EPA grants E15 sales extension for Ohio and South Dakota. The EPA has granted Ohio and South Dakota a one-year extension to implement permanent year-round E15 sales, pushing the deadline to spring 2026. This marks the final extension available to the 8 Midwest states included in the rule finalized by the Biden administration. Kansas, though not part of the original group, also requested a delay. Meanwhile, Congress is debating a legislative fix to allow nationwide year-round E15 sales. The EPA is monitoring fuel markets and may issue emergency waivers if necessary. Petroleum groups have pushed for delays, citing supply concerns, while fuel retailers warn the new rule requires producing separate fuel types. The rule, finalized in February of 2024, aims to put E10 and E15 on equal footing. The top ethanol-producing states, including Iowa and Nebraska, are among those granted the permanent waiver. Now let's take a look at our afternoon weather update from meteorologist Ryan Martin, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
Cloud cover dominating over Ohio for most of your Wednesday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. No major weather issues here. We just got a minor disturbance that came across northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin overnight, trying to track through Indiana and Michigan. That's going to throw cloud cover in here and probably a little bit of light precipitation. I'm looking mostly at on again, off again, light rain. I think anywhere from a tenth to maybe 3/4 of an inch. Coverage will end up being about 75-80% of Ohio through the day today. Colder air coming in behind this, a lot of clouds with that, and maybe a few flurries overnight tomorrow night into early Friday. But then later Friday afternoon into Saturday, we start to see temperatures moderate ever so slightly before a chilly weekend tries to take hold. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Switching gears, former U.S. Trade Representative Greg Dowd slammed the EU, Canada, and Brazil for unfair trade barriers at a recent House Trade Subcommittee hearing. Dowd, who now heads the National Milk Producers Federation, says the U.S. sells 15 times more cheese to Guatemala than to the EU. That as Canada restricts U.S. dairy sales to its processors despite USMCA trade deal dairy reforms. Dowd says Brazil is another protectionist trading partner.
When U.S. embassy officials return to Brasilia from the U.S., they take cheese with them because there's no product in Brazil that is even comparable. And that's because Brazil blocks our products.
Brazil also has an 18% tariff on ethanol, while the U.S. duty on Brazilian ethanol is just 2.5%.
I worked on this ethanol issue. Very, very frustrating issue. We did resolve a wheat issue, tariff rate quota issue with Brazil that we'd had for 25 years with them. So it's, Brazil's a stiff competitor, but in agriculture, there should be reciprocity today, sir, and there isn't.
Ways and Means Chair Jason Smith accused Brazil of, quote, gaming the system to fill almost all of the U.S. global quota for tariff-free beef by January 17th. Dowd and another former U.S. trade official told lawmakers that it's time to, quote, rattle some cages when it comes to unfair practices by U.S. trading partners. We'll be back after this.
Morton Buildings is holding their annual Building Value Day sales event running now through the end of February. Morton Buildings are built stronger, last longer, and look better. So if you're planning for a garage, farm shop, stall barn, a storage building for your RV, boat, or collectibles, or anything in between, act now and contact one of their 4 Ohio offices by visiting mortonbuildings.com or call 800-447-7436 to take advantage of their current savings on select new buildings. Certain restrictions may apply. This offer is available on select building styles. Contact your local construction center for more details.
Farmers sue the USDA over purge of climate information. Environmental groups and an organic farming association are suing the USDA for removing climate change-related research and resources from its website. The lawsuit, filed Monday in New York, claims USDA began deleting pages on January 30th without public notice, erasing vital information on climate-smart agriculture, forest conservation, and clean energy investments. The complaint argues that the removal harms farmers, researchers, and advocates who rely on USDA data for conservation funding and decision-making. It also claims the public is losing access just as USDA freezes promised funds for climate programs. The Northeast Organic Farming Association of New York, the Natural Resources Defense Council, and the Environmental Working Group are leading the lawsuit. Now let's take a look at how the markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. March corn down 11 1/4 at 453 1/2. December corn down 6 3/4 at 455. March beans down 11 1/4 at 1011 1/2. November beans down 12 1/4 at 1029 1/2. March wheat down 9 3/4 at 537. September wheat down 7 1/2 at 584 1/2. February live cattle down $1.67 1/2 at 197.72 1/2. June live cattle down $3.55 at 188.77 1/2. April lean hogs down 70 cents at 83.67 1/2. June lean hogs down $2.57 1/2 at 95.02 1/2. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. This is the Ohio AgNet.